Welcome to Elevate, a podcast where we sit down with the women shaping workplace culture as some of the biggest names in the business. These are the leaders navigating change, putting people first, and keeping teams connected and engaged every single day. Elevate is brought to you by Line Zero, a global employee experience consultancy firm that partners with organizations to create connected workplaces. Tune in to learn how today's leaders are breaking barriers and building cultures where employees truly thrive.
Welcome back to Elevate. I am your host, Joy Fajardo, and today's conversation is with someone who has spent her entire career shaping how organizations grow through people. I am really excited to introduce Vanessa Lecorps. Vanessa is the Vice President of Engagement and Belonging at Children's Aid, where she leads the work of helping people feel seen, heard, and genuinely connected to the organization they are part of. And what I love about her work is that it's not just about programs or initiatives. It's about building cultures that actually sustain growth. She brings over 25 years of global experience across corporate, academic, and nonprofit spaces, leading enterprise-wide transformation in organizational development, change, and culture. She's also known as a true connector, someone who doesn't just design strategies, but brings people along in a way that feels human, inclusive, and lasting. On top of that, she's an adjunct professor at New York University, board president of Women's Mentoring Network, and speaks 4 languages, which honestly just feels very on brand for someone who operates so globally and cross-culturally. Vanessa, it's such a privilege to have you here with us today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you, Joy. Really looking forward to chatting with you today. Thank you for inviting me.
Amazing. All right. So, Vanessa, there's so many directions we could go with your story, but I'd love to start at the very beginning. Take me back to the beginning a little bit. What drew you into this kind of work, and how did that path eventually lead you to your current organization?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I was thinking about this recently as I was coaching a group of students at NYU, and it took me back really 30 years when I was in high school. I did not have experiences that were always fun at school, and feeling excluded or having systems in place that were not always fair, or having professors that were not very caring, and just students who were just mean sometimes. And I found myself always jumping in and helping others, and I was targeted at some point as well for being an outsider, be bullied. We didn't have that word back then. But I think that really worked on my psychological makeup, and my experience really helped unknowingly, I think unconsciously, shape who I was becoming. And as I was studying, I went to study in Puerto Rico and fell in love with my human resources management class. I had a wonderful teacher there and really understood the power of culture. I started being really curious about what systems and processes and practices can do to make adults feel seen and heard and comfortable in your work environment. And that became a true focus for me and a passion ever since.
I didn't really expect that part, especially about your school experiences. And I love how experiences, especially with the mentor that you mentioned, have shaped not just your career, but also the perspective on leadership that you have today. Now, speaking of leadership, let's talk about the incredible work you're doing at your organization. As the VP of Engagement and Belonging, you're shaping some powerful initiatives. What does the work actually look like day to day for you? And what kind of impact are you hoping to create within the organization?
Thank you for that. So it's a new role at Children's Aid, but I come to this organization with 25 years of experience in this space, caring about culture. And really, I started in leadership development and learning and development because through research and evidence-based content, came to realize that it's a lot about systems again, but also leadership behaviors, the day to day. So the work that we do here is really to make sure that we use data to make recommendations. We just launched our employee engagement survey that let us know exactly what groups are really thriving and which groups are thriving, which groups are doing a great job, and where we can help improve in some areas. And So I'm very much interested in change that is sustainable and skill building, also processes and systems that are productive and positive. So we work a lot cross-functionally with our wellness people, our team, with our performance management team, looking at human resources data as well and correlating retention data and promotion data and just employee sentiment, wellness and well-being data to make sure that our environments are really producing the best results for our people.
It's so inspiring to hear how you're creating spaces where people feel like they belong while also using data, employee sentiments, working with other teams. It's such a powerful mission. And the way that you describe it, it's not very heavy, but it's very intentional. And I guess that's really what stood out to me. And
Mhm.
your role has taken you across so many different environments too, right? As I've mentioned, you've been in corporate, academic, nonprofit. I want to explore how you've adapted your strategies along the way. So
Mhm.
you've worked in different organizations, corporate, academic, nonprofit setting, and each of those has their own rhythm and own culture. How do you adopt your engagement and inclusion strategies to fit those environments?
Yeah. I think it's like any other business metrics or area. It's important for the engagement work to not stand alone and to not exist just because it sounds good. The work is meaningful and intentional, as you said, and adds value when it's connected to the business value. So I always start with the question, what are we trying to solve? What is the issue that's keeping leaders up at night? Is it turnover? Is it the fact that we have a hard time attracting and retaining talent? Is it the fact that maybe we're so flat, there's no room for growth? Are we outsourcing our development? Are we not offering any development? What is the issue at the heart of what we're trying to solve, and how does it impact the business, our ability to attract customer or deliver in a nonprofit world, for example, on our mission? So from that standpoint, the work is the work is the work. And as long as the work can be aligned with the business mission and the objectives that are, again, that matter to the leaders, it adds value. We can actually prove and again show data, leveraging data to show how it closes gaps and can actually be an enabler to the business functions. So I've adapted really by making sure that I understood that needs at the very beginning, and then from there co-designing interventions with the leaders so they understood that this is really value add exercise that will be co-created, then that will have an impact on their bottom line.
What get here is that you're not applying a one size fits all solution. You're starting with really tailoring your work to meet people where they are at. You
Mhm.
didn't start with the strategy straight away, like, let's do this, but instead, it's more of listening to what is the core, as you mentioned, what is the problem we're trying to solve before you even get started with the strategy. And that adaptability is so critical, very important when it comes to aligning engagement with the mission of an organization. Like right now, you're with Children's Aid, and Children's Aid has been around for like 100 over years doing such meaningful work. How do you make that mission feel real for employees, not just something written on the wall, for example? How do you make sure that the people who work there also feel that sense of purpose and belonging every day?
Mm. I think that's the easy part. We're very, very lucky at Children's Aid. As you said, we've been around for 174 years, well established in the community. We're in New York. We have over 2,000 employees in 42 offices. I think people join our organization because they have that sense of purpose and mission, and they are driven to make a difference. Their whole purpose and reason of being is to have an impact in the world and to support children and families in need in New York City. So that's an easy, no need to sell piece that I'm very lucky to have. And so our employee survey confirmed it, where we have very dedicated staff. And I think the opportunities many organizations have is on the mechanics of communications and, how are we growing and taking care of all the needs of our employees in a way that continues to build on the mission. So I think, taking care of our people, communicating, as you said, the value of the work to the day to day is critical. And I think that's something we continue to focus on. And that makes the entire difference, the whole difference.
That's really great to hear how, as you said, it's a very rare opportunity to be in an organization that really speaks for itself. Like you don't even have to sell its mission because everyone who joins just jumps straight away to the mission because they believe in the same
Mhm.
core, right? And now I'd love to hear more about personal side of this work. Can you share a story or a moment that really stands out to you? Something that made you step back and think, you know, this is why I do what I do. That kind of fulfillment. Can you share a story with us?
So many. We have a few employees, actually many employees, but a few employees in the front line. We have a few people working, let's say, in security, and their job is to welcome employees, for example. And I would like to highlight their work in particular because it illustrates what we're talking about in terms of embodying the mission and really understand at the very deep level how their work adds value. Most recently, actually last week, one of our team members was reminded to complete a training that we all have to take. And as he was welcoming team members in the morning, he just took the initiative to say, hey, and remember to do your training. Remember the deadline is March 30th. And now we're talking about somebody who works in security, who's there for safety. Yes, you would say part of the job description is to welcome employees, but the fact that he went above and beyond and so naturally and effortlessly reminded us, each one of us who walked in that day, of that task that the compliance department had created for us, just made my day. And we recognized this effort right away. We posted on our chat channels. We actually took his picture holding and really recognized that effort. And I think that's a great example of values in action and what happens when people really take their work seriously and they understand that we all add value. Even our colleagues who are not in direct service to our children and families, he understood that his role was much bigger than the security role that he was holding, that he could do his part by making sure we were all in compliance. And again, that was an initiative that he took by himself. And I think examples like this make me so happy because they indicate that we're doing a good job. We're doing a good job in touching people and providing meaningful work for our colleagues. And in return, they provide extraordinary service.
Wow, that is a powerful story. It speaks of how intentional leadership can create such a meaningful change because you don't really have to have like a loud action to make an impact to your colleagues. It's as simple as what you said, just come in and a reminder that, hey, everyone needs to finish this compliance that is sent to us. Like, oh, I love that. Now, hearing that makes me think about, the connection you made with employees because for that to naturally happen, there
Mm.
should have been a connection that's already built before that for that person to be just comfortable to be empowered to go above and beyond his or her role. So
Uh-huh.
employee experience, it's another big focus of your work. How do you make sure your programs and strategies actually connect with everyone, no matter their role or their background?
Yes, it's definitely key for everyone to understand how they're adding value and how they can continue to add value even when they step out of their day to day, especially when they see an opportunity to step out of their day to day, to feel motivated to raise their hand and to do the thing, whatever that is, no matter where they sit. And to your point, building that trust and ensuring that our leaders walk the talk. If we say that work-life balance is important, making sure that every leader understands that they're not going to email after hours because that will send the message that actually that after hour emails are expected and responses would be expected after hours. So we try to really minimize the say-do mismatch or the knowing doing gaps that our leaders may have, and really to recognizing good behavior, I think goes a long way. Recognizing those great habits and modeling, being very aware in what we model every step of the way, especially when we are in leadership roles, especially for people leaders or managers or supervisors with people reporting to them. what they say, what they do, how they say it, what they do, how they do what they do matters. And I think raising that awareness is critical in building trust and in inspiring our team members to step up in the way we just described.
You already mentioned about internal communication. So, internal communications is another big piece, right? It's such a huge role in also connection and also trust, building trust. What are some of the creative ways that you've approached internal comms at Children's Aid to keep people engaged and informed?
Yeah, we have a wonderful internal communications team. They were very connected, and we also rolled out new tools, electronic tools that keep our colleagues connected through an app, for example. And that's where they can enter their time. They don't have to be at a desktop. We can use that app to give each other kudos, to give announcements, to share good news. So we have communication channels that we leverage for managers and for all our employees. And I'm a big proponent of using all of them because people are busy, there are different roles throughout the organizations, and we have to provide the information in multiple ways as often as we can to make sure we don't miss anyone. And again, our team is really fabulous and we're always looking at ways to improve. Communication is definitely at the core of engagement.
I'm just curious. It's an additional question to the earlier one, but where does AI fit into what you're doing right now, if there's any? Because AI is a big thing. Everyone just wants to dive right in. Is there any dabbling with AI right now?
Yeah, we are experimenting for sure. We have a co-pilot that we're encouraging our leaders to use as proprietary as well. We try to also stay safe and secure in the way we use it and encourage our team members to use it. I'm a big proponent of it. I do believe what they say that if there are people to be replaced, they're not gonna lose their job to somebody to just AI, but they might lose their job to somebody who knows how to use AI if they don't know how to use it themselves. So I'm a big proponent of leveraging this tool, this new technology to lessen loads, to save time, to automate routine tasks or emails. And I think the one thing that is going to be hard to automate, and that's where we're really doubling down on creativity and critical thinking and just this thinking about again getting together and share thought leadership, right? And I think the quality of the thinking can be outsourced yet, which I'm very grateful for, but having a tool that can automate routine tasks, why not? And we're very open to it with the proper guidelines and security measures in place.
I love that. And I fully agree. Like you can use AI to help with repetitive tasks, but even for myself, because in marketing, those messaging, those creatives, I think that's still owned by a human. It's kind of hard to replicate. It might take time before we get there. We might not even get there. But yeah, for sure. And I also agree with what you said that AI is not replacing us. A person might be replaced by someone who can use AI. That's really so valuable. Now, what's your vision for the future of engagement and belonging, just generally and also within your organization? Where do you see this work heading in the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
I think it will not go away as long as there are humans in the systems. And even when we introduce agents with AI, there will be this need for emotional intelligence at work and leadership development and knowing how to motivate staff, how to bring meaning to the work. And so I think that's not going to go away. We may be able to do it even better, leveraging the technology out there by perhaps customizing plans even more based on the needs of our employees instead of having solutions that are rolled out to everybody at once. We may have solutions that are even more customized based on needs, which would be great, right? We have so many generations in the workplace, so many differences in terms of perceptions of what work should bring. I think having models in place that uh, could help us meet those needs at a even higher level would be wonderful. I think that's not going to go away.
100% for sure. And as you said, because the workforce right now, there's just like all generations are now getting inside the workforce altogether. There's even more and more focus on how can we cater all those generations. It might be a number of people collaborating and making it work, but Emotional intelligence is another that you mentioned, which I really like. But yeah, now before we wrap up, I'd love to ask one more personal question. Looking back
Mm.
on everything you've shared from your journey to your current work, what's one piece of advice for leaders who want to create a more inclusive workplace that you can give?
I have two. I think.
Perfect.
I think
I love that.
the first one is to encourage them to spend time knowing themselves even more in the current reality and understand what's their why, what's motivating them to continue. And as we talked about, to not trust 100% everything they have learned so far and to keep learning. And so that looks like listening. That looks like humility and taking time to find out what the needs are and not assume that you will solve it by yourself and alone. I know that's impossible these days. Even less probable to solve for the long run by yourself because you have the role. So I think effective leaders must absolutely practice humility and listen much more than before. So I would encourage them to do more of that.
That's a super valuable advice. But I'm curious, what led you to the first advice? Because I was listening and I was like, know yourself better. Why is that the first advice? Is there any like thought that goes with that?
I think it's easier to lead and influence and positively have an impact when you understand what your own motivations are. I think different people may be in the work for different reasons, but being super clear about why is the person in the role and what they intend to do and just sit with that. To sit with that is super important because that will determine how they move through the world and how they attack issues that may come up. And the bottom line is, and that's, I think, as the little secret, is it's never about the leader, right? So it's knowing yourself enough to understand that it's not about you. It's about the mission. It's about the business results. And it's about the bigger impact. And you're just there to enable through systems and processes and the teams you have and the knowledge you have, but it's not about you. So I think practicing that humility is super, super important.
Know yourself, practice humility and listening. Thank you, Vanessa, for sharing your insights and also for inspiring us with your work. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Elevate. If today's conversation sparked ideas about improving your own organization, we want to help you take the next step. At Line Zero, we offer a personalized employee experience assessment. Our consultants will spend a bit of time with you and your team to evaluate your unique employee experience ecosystem and understand the specific challenges that you face in engaging and supporting your workforce. If you want to learn more, you can visit us at linezero.com. The link to our page is on the description. We also encourage you to follow Vanessa Lecorps on LinkedIn to see more of her amazing work at Children's Aid. And finally, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Line Zero for more conversations, insights, and stories about internal communications and employee experience. Until then, keep elevating, keep inspiring, and let's make every workplace a place where people thrive. Thank you, everyone.